Hey there! In this episode of Mind Pump, we talk about what bodybuilders can learn from powerlifters and what powerlifters can learn from bodybuilders. We also talk about reverse band exercises and a lot of other topics.
It feels incredible, and your strength goes through the roof when you train this way.
In the second half of the episode, we have 4 live callers where we answer questions such as, hey, I can't do pull-ups. How can I do one? And we teach all about how to do that. Also, we talk about switching from a split to a full body routine.
What did he say?
Hey, you might want to try that. Finally, if you want short clips from this show, go to our YouTube channel, Mind Pump Clips, and subscribe. All right, enjoy the show.
Powerlifters have it half right and half wrong. Bodybuilders also have it half right and half wrong. There's a lot you can learn from both if you want to maximize your gains.
You got to explain that.
Right. So powerlifters, or if you train with a powerlifting mentality, right? Low reps, you're trying to maximize strength. The goal is to make the weight feel as light as possible. Like if you ever train with a powerlifter, they're really good at maximizing biomechanics and leverage and the technique of the lift, right?
They're not thinking about the muscles.
Not at all.
They're just moving the weight.
They're moving the weight
as effectively as possible.
Yes, and they're trying to make it light. They're trying to make it feel light. Whereas a bodybuilder, what they're trying to do is they're trying to take an exercise and how can I make this weight feel as heavy as possible? How can I make the weight feel harder to create more tension on the muscle? Both have tremendous value. Both build muscle. Both are valuable skills depending on the phase of training that you're in.
Completely different mindsets.
Yes.
I love this tip because I actually think this takes a while of training consistently before you learn to like really apply this into your programming.
Totally.
And what I mean by that is all of us, whether we like it or not, tend to identify somewhat to some camp, right? As much as we talk about how all of us tend to gravitate towards a way of training. If I were to critique myself, I gravitate towards more of a bodybuilder type of mentality when I lift. If I were to critique you two, I think you guys gravitate more towards a strongman or powerlifting. And so what does that mean? Well, that means when Justin and Sal go to do 15, 20 reps, they have a tendency probably to want to put more weight on the bar and lift as much weight as they can for those 15 reps.
Right.
What I tend to do with powerlifting reps, if I'm doing 5, let's say 1 to 5 reps, I have a tendency to not put enough weight on the bar because I'm trying to feel my glutes and squeeze, or feel my back and squeeze. And so learning how to take yourself out of that character and think like the person that tends to gravitate towards that type of rep range and learn how to apply that into your program. That takes a lot of skill.
Oh, if you've ever worked out, if you've ever done like a low rep training cycle with a bodybuilder or a high rep training cycle with a powerlifter, you could clearly see this. The powerlifter doing the cable crossovers and the laterals and the other stuff, it's like they have the same powerlifting mentality. It's about biomechanics and leverage. Whereas with the bodybuilder, you take them and you have them deadlift, and you can tell, like, what are you trying to do? You're trying to feel your lats. You're trying to squeeze your back. Don't do that. Just lift the weight in the most efficient, effective way possible. And like MAPS Anabolic, for example, is a great example of this. Phase 1, the goal is to lift the weight and do it in the most effective, efficient way possible. You get to phase 2 and phase 3, the weight isn't as important. It's about making the weight feel heavy. And if you cross those over, you mess up the whole thing.
Well, the clearest example I always see is when a bodybuilder goes to deadlift and you see like they're a bend in their elbow and they're always like pulling with a lot of upper body strength and really trying to muscle it up, as opposed to, you know, using that leverage and like their whole body in this like simultaneous type of a fluid movement to pull it up off the ground. And then on the other end of it, seeing, you know, a power lifter, like somebody like me, like when we were in Ben Pakulski's gym, and I'm like, you know, just trying to get through the reps, and you know, if I'm doing like, let's say like a lateral raise or something, and I'm doing the reps, and he's slowing me way down and grinding my way through, and like every little detail of the angle of, you know, where I'm trying to pull, like, matters substantially.
Well, let's unpack it a little bit more, right? Like, what are some of the characteristics that are positive about each of those like types of like
great direction,
right? So a bodybuilder does like They a lot of times incorporate an isometric pause. They're slow. The tempo is slow and controlled. They squeeze at the top, like they're thinking about the muscle. Like, so weight is not normally a major focus. Yes, they progressively overload and lift more weight, but they are trying to make that weight as heavy as possible. They're more into the technique. They're more into slowing the tempo down and squeezing. When you go over to the power lifter or bodybuilder, I mean, it's speed, firing your CNS, like explosiveness, like just moving the weight as fast and as hard as you possibly can. Very, very different adaptations. And so if you train in that way or like that way for a long period of time, and then you ask each of those characters to move into the opposite type of rep range, meaning the opposite side of the spectrum, like the bodybuilder who does, supersets, 15 to 20 reps, a lot of pumping stuff, and say, okay, now I want you to run singles. He still thinks like a bodybuilder,
yes,
and he wants to apply that to the 1 to 5. And the opposite is true for the power lifter who lifts 1 to 5 reps and grind and explosive fire in the scene. And then he goes over to do 15 reps and he tries to apply that, speed, explosive, grinding type of reps to the bodybuilder or the hypertrophy type training, and they both have a lot to learn from each other.
100%. Okay, so here's the big discrepancies I can see. Let's use an exercise like the bench press. Technique, let's start with that. Powerlifter they're both, by the way, I want to say this before we continue, they're both technical.
Yeah.
A bodybuilder and a powerlifter are both focusing on technique, but what they're focusing on is different. The powerlifter is modifying the technique to maximize leverage. How can I change my technique and positioning and form to lift the most amount of weight? The bodybuilder is thinking technique as well, but what they're thinking is, how can I move and change my body and positioning to feel this the most in the chest?
Increase their time under tension.
Yes, two very different things. And then let's talk about stress on the muscle. The power lifter, although they're not necessarily thinking stress on the muscle because they're thinking weight, their primary means of doing so is extrinsic. I'm saying that wrong. There you go. It's adding weight to the bar, whereas a bodybuilder is more intrinsic. Can I make this feel harder by squeezing and contracting the muscle? They're both valuable.
Yes.
With the power lifter, you're teaching, first off, you're learning your really good leverage and technique for maximizing the amount of weight you can lift, and that's going to carry over into the bodybuilding style training. You're also creating tremendous tension. You're also teaching your muscles how to organize and work together to lift something, which is a very valuable skill that you have to learn and strengthen, because that's what makes you strong in the real world. Bodybuilders, what's the value there? They can target hypertrophy. They can target and focus, right? If you're always benching like a power lifter and it just doesn't activate your chest as much because that's the best leverage for you, you're not going to develop the most muscular chest doing it that way, versus a bodybuilder who can change their positioning to focus and feel on the area that they want to target. And by the way, with a power lifter whose technique doesn't activate the chest as much and has good leverage, would they benefit from still having a bigger chest? They would. So them switching over to some bodybuilding training, get some hypertrophy, they would actually get stronger, and vice versa. The bodybuilder would gain from learning how to organize their muscles in a way to maximize force. So there's tremendous value, but the key here to understand, if you're listening to this and you don't care about competing in either sport, the thing you want to understand here is, if you're lifting in really low rep ranges, train like the best people who lift in low rep ranges. Yeah. Train like them. Who's the best strength athletes in low rep ranges? Powerlifters. So you want to follow their mentality and their focus. Well, who are the best people at targeted hypertrophy? Bodybuilders. So when you get in those hypertrophy rep ranges, the 12 and 15 rep ranges, where you're getting the pump and your target sculpting your body, you want to follow their mentality and learn from both. And then if you cycle between them, do phases, you end up minimizing the negatives, because what are the negatives of powerlifting training? Eventually you start to get joint pain. You start to stress basically the seams, right? Yeah, you start to fry yourself a little bit. What are the negatives of the bodybuilding training? Well, you don't get the muscle density. You don't get the ability to really fire your muscles in a unified way, as organized as you'd like.
You're like compartmentalized.
Yeah, you can kind of become very compartmentalized. You'll see this with bodybuilders, by the way. When you ever try and have a bodybuilder do a kettlebell swing, it's like they're doing a front shoulder raise, reverse
squat,
curl type of deal. Right. So they both can benefit. You can benefit from learning both. What you don't want to do is use the wrong mentality for the wrong training cycle. That's when things get mixed up.
Well, the true masters of kinesiology have the ability to move in and out of this. I mean, that's when I see somebody who is really, really understands human movement and understands all these different, the values of all these different modalities, like you have that. I mean, it takes a lot of self-awareness. It takes, I think, a lot of practice. Like, this is not a year one of lifting. Have you figured this out? I mean, it takes some time under the bar to be able to figure this out, how to do this.
And this can't be overstated. The mental aspect of training for long-term success is the most important part. It's more important than anything else. And the reason why, if you follow one of our MAPS programs, the way we phase our workouts are typically in 3 and 4 week blocks. So for 3 or 4 weeks, you're training this low rep range. The mentality is more like a power lifter. You're looking at leverage and technique in that particular context. And then, okay, phase 3 or phase 2, higher reps, trying to get a pump, change the mentality, train more like a bodybuilder, focus on the glutes, focus on the hamstrings, the lats, the pecs, whatever the exercise calls for. The reason why we phase them that way versus Monday is heavy, Wednesday is light, Friday is in between, like, because studies show that both methods seem to be relatively equal in terms of muscle growth. But I disagree, because the
psychological component,
getting into the mental space of training like a powerlifter typically takes me 3 or 4 workouts. 3 or 4 workouts into it, now I've got the feel for the lifts. For the bodybuilding style, it's the same thing. Getting out of that powerlifting mentality, getting into feel the muscle, not pay attention so much to the weight, that requires another 3 or 4 workouts. And when I switch back and forth, it can sometimes get mixed up, and I'm experienced. So I can't imagine the average person trying to do something like that.
I would like to add to this conversation another very valuable, character to emulate would be the athlete.
Yeah.
Because that's a whole nother mindset and way of thinking going in your training
Totally.
too. Like the ability to stabilize and decelerate and accelerate explosively,
accelerate,
and control, and with speed, right, and power. Like, I mean, all 3 of those are very unique. When you think of a power lifter, bodybuilder, and then you think of like the athlete / maybe Olympic lifter would be like someone who would be close to explaining that. And like those are. They're very different, the way you approach the bar and how you lift the weight.
So I will say this about
fast, loose.
Oh God, you hit the nail on the head. Athletes, so power lifters understand tension and like, let's just ramp up the CNS and go, right? And a power lifter would be more like an athlete in terms of strength sports than the bodybuilder, more so, right? Because they compete in actual like competition in that sense. Athletes, they know how to be tense, and they also know when to be loose. So if you watch an athlete play a sport, when they need to turn it up, it is fire. Muscles are on. And when they need to be loose, they be loose. Why? Because you can't be tense all the time. You're going to die. After 5 minutes.
Tension restricts movement.
Yes. So that's I'm so glad you said that, because learning how to do like mobility and train in multiplanar movements and have an athletic mindset is neither bodybuilder or powerlifter.
That's right.
In fact, if you go into that kind of stuff, training first off, you train like a bodybuilder, you're not going to move well, because you're going to think bicep, tricep, shoulder. It's not going to work that way.
Yeah.
If you think like a powerlifter, you're going to gas out after 30 seconds, because you got to know when to be loose, when to conserve energy, and when to expel it.
It's interesting to think about, because it is kind of the ultimate hybrid of those mentalities, and to be able to generate as much force as you can from like your power lifter. So the power lifter's entire process is to just generate as much force as possible, and then have the mechanics to go through that movement as efficiently as they can. Whereas, the athlete, it wants to be able to spark that type of force production, but then control that and be loose to be able to manipulate their body so they can propel their body in certain directions in a fluid way, but then bring it back under control right away. So it's like, it gets, in terms of complexity, I would say, I guess powerlifting and bodybuilding are probably somewhat equal, but then that's sort of another layer of components.
I would say athletic is the pinnacle.
That's the ultimate expression.
That's the pinnacle. Yeah, because that's definitely
you're expressing.
You got to put it all together.
Yeah, because I mean, the closest thing that you would relate to that outside of like sport specific training would be Olympic lifting.
Yes,
and that is the pinnacle.
That would be the one sort of in between. I would say.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely the pinnacle. This tip that I know you didn't intend for this to be like this massive MAPS commercial, but I mean, literally, this is why I recently came out and said, like, man, I would love to hear from somebody who literally goes through every single MAPS program and follows it to a T, because we have thought about that in the programming of all of these, that you should get some of that application throughout all these programs as you go through them. And when you get done, like, you have a lot of tools in your tool belt. And this is something I take a lot of pride in, the fact that I can get in the gym and I can lift, and look kind of like a power. If you saw me deadlift and squat, I've got pretty good depth and range, got pretty good form and technique that you could, and I can lift pretty good weight. That's like, oh, okay, not the strongest guy in the gym by any means, but it's like, oh, that guy can power lift pretty well. He's strong like that. Then I can also get out there. I could do a jump box and look like an athlete when I do it. And then I get out there and I can train with great control and technique like a bodybuilder and move in and out of all that stuff.
And by the way, training in these different modalities, just for people who are more aesthetic focused, actually produces the best aesthetics. And I need to explain that for a second. Aesthetics isn't just how you look posing in a picture. Aesthetics in the real world is you're watching someone move and walk. Yep. Okay, you're watching someone squat down or sit down or twist and turn. So aesthetics isn't just how ripped and muscular you look when you're standing posing, but rather also how you move. And we've all seen that guy or girl, right? They look really amazing standing still, but as soon as they start moving, they look very non-fluid, almost awkward, right? So all this type of training produces a muscular, lean, fluid physique that actually gives you real aesthetics in the real world. You look healthy and you look like you can move really well. I remember experiencing that in jiu-jitsu. You know, there were guys that were brown belts and black belts, so very experienced doing jiu-jitsu for 9 to 10 years, who I could cream them with stamina and endurance and strength in the gym. At the time, this is when I was doing jiu-jitsu for a while, I could beat them in stamina, I could beat them in a circuit, I could beat them lifting, but then we'd hit the mats and I'd be gassed out and those guys would be like, whatever. And they would tell me it's because they're like, I know when to relax. Mm-hmm. Like you're sitting there tense this whole time and they know how to relax and flow. You ever ride, remember the first few times you rode like a dirt bike? And you're going over bumps and you're just so tired because you're just holding on so hard.
Because you're so tense.
Yes. So athletes know how to do that. And that's an important skill as well. And training like an athlete, you know, MAPS Performance has got some phase 2s like that, where you got to learn how to do that. You're going to die. Like you do the matrix lunges and all.
You acquire through practice. And then that's the biggest thing is like most athletes are going to be rigid like that. They're going to be stiff. They're going to be tense. And it takes your body already has these natural governings in place to keep you safe and protect your joints and all that stuff. It takes, you know, that many hours and hours of practice to be able to provide that feedback that everything's going to be safe and is under control, and you have the strength and ability to control your body on that level.
Yes.
I think for the general population that's listening, one of the things to take away that is we all tend to gravitate towards a way of training or identify as a group. And the more you challenge yourself, the more benefits that you can receive, right? Like if you always train like a bodybuilder and you apply, and yes, you manipulate rep ranges, things like that, but you still apply that mindset into the way you lift all the time, like you're only allowing yourself to reap so many benefits from training through all. When you learn to move in and out of these modalities and take those mentalities into lifting, you'll open up more. Yeah.
Each one of these avatars have desirable characteristics. I mean, if anything you've seen in the fitness arena, you've seen like those like few things. If you say like bodybuilding, like you'll pick those aesthetic focuses out, like this is my desired outcome. I want those right out of here. Or if I'm an athlete, I want to be able to move at this, you know, level and be explosive. And you could do that along the board of all these different types of avatars we create. But there's something to be said about like being able to extract those characteristics and incorporate, you know, all of those.
And even for people who compete in these sports, there's someone listening who's like, well, I'm a power lifter. Like I compete in powerlifting. Well, you don't have to devote equal time to bodybuilding style training and to mobility as you do to powerlifting, but it will benefit you to dip into those to break up your normal training cycle. So it would be great if you do like a 12-week powerlifting block, it'd be good to throw in a couple weeks of bodybuilding or mobility focused type training, and you'll end up just getting stronger. Same thing with a bodybuilder.
You're going to need to eventually, and I'll tell you why. You know what eventually happens is you hit your goal. Like, so I 100% identified as the bodybuilder type of guy well, then eventually I hit my ultimate bodybuilding goal. And then it was kind of like, oh,
boring.
What now?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I reached the pinnacle of this thing that I had been chasing my whole life as a young boy into young adulthood into training. And then you reach that and it's like, oh, well, I want this to be a lifelong pursuit. Well, I no longer have this big goal anymore because I've achieved it. So it's kind of like, I just keep doing the same thing over. And I'm always going to fall short now of what that like. So for me, for sanity reasons, and I think that everybody will eventually reach this if you're super focused on one thing. If you want to be the best OCR racer, you want to be the best power, you eventually kind of reach that goal. And if you're not only just doing that for this specific goal or sport or thing you like, and you want this to be a lifelong pursuit of health, you're gonna need to move out of that, or else you're just be letting yourself down all the time. I mean, if I compared my physique always to my top physique that I've had before, I'm gonna be let down about my training all the time. So I
can have better mobility.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I had to force myself to go like, okay, I'm no longer the bodybuilding guy. I need to identify as the mobility guy for a while, or the strength guy for a while, or the sport guy for a while. Like I think it's important to do that if you want to make this a lifelong pursuit.
This is all fitness wisdom, is what it is. You talk to people who've been doing it for a long time, like 10 plus years consistently, who are people who worked out consistently for 10 years are very likely to work out for the rest of their life to keep it consistent. That's fitness wisdom. So that's the kind of advice that's going to help you stay consistent and do this forever. Here's the giveaway for today's episode, MAPS Strong. This is the Strongman-inspired resistance training program. You can get it for free. Here's how you win. Leave a comment below in the first 24 hours that we drop this episode. Subscribe to this channel. Turn on notifications. Do all of those things. If we like your comment, we'll notify you in the comment section that you won free access to MAPS Strong. We won't notify you any other way. So there's a lot of people out there trying to rip people off. It's the comment section. That's where you'll see if you won or not. Also, 3 days left for the big sale we're doing this month. The Skinny Guy Bundle, which includes all these programs, is 50% off. And the Fit Mom Bundle, which includes all these other programs, is also 50% off. Again, this sale ends in 3 days, 72 hours, and then it's over, and it won't come back till probably next year. So if you want to get set up, click on the link at the top of the description below to get the 50% off discount. All right, here comes the show. I have just figured out that the PRX racks are really set up exceptionally well for band either assistance or resistance to add to the bar.
You left them up on there, and I did it for the first time the other day.
It's set up, it's so perfect.
It is. I don't know why I didn't think it was.
Same here. I was just looking around and I saw.
Because I don't know. Do you think they intended it?
No.
No, I don't think so either.
It's just a pull-up bar, and then they also have the safeties underneath. So to kind of break down what's going on, if this is a wonderful training technique and a way to really advance your progress, especially if you're already advanced. You can add bands. So with the PRX racks, it folds up against the wall. So the thing with PRX is it's designed to minimize space. So if you have like a small area, when it's up against the wall, it comes off like I don't know, like not even 12 inches, right?
No, I think 6. I think Doug.
It's actually 4.
Oh,
4 inches? Holy cow. Then you pull the rack and it kind of folds off the wall, hits the floor, super stable. It's actually more stable than a traditional commercial rack. And now you have yourself a normal squat rack. Well, it has a pull-up bar. And so what I did was I set up the bench press, and then I attached bands around the pull-up bar and then put them around the bar. So now I'm getting band assistance. So meaning the weight is heaviest at the top, lightest at the bottom. So it's kind of matching my strength curve. And it feels incredible, and your strength goes through the roof when you train this way. And the other thing you could do with the safeties is I take the bands and put them around the bottom of the safeties around the bar to add resistance. So now it's harder as I push up or squat or whatever. It's perfect. All you need are bands. Everything's right there.
Yeah, I haven't done that with the PRX yet, but that was definitely a go-to for me for quite a bit. It's a great addition, especially if you're feeling any kind of plateau or anything with the weight that you've been putting up. It's one of those kind of in-between methods to really, get you to break through.
I wouldn't have thought to do it except for he left the bands up there, and I was doing incline press that day. It was just a couple days ago. And I was like, oh, it's been forever since I've done. And we just had a conversation with one of our friends, and we were talking about what a great tool.
Yeah, reverse bands.
Bands were and stuff like that. And that's what always happens to me. Like we talked to one of our really smart friends, and we're talking about different and still I go like, oh man, it's been a long time since I applied that. And sure enough, Sal had left the bands up there. And I didn't think PRX was set up well for that. I really didn't. I just assumed that because I didn't see any like hooks specifically, because some of these racks and things
have hooks.
Yeah, will have specific hooks that you're like, oh,
no, it's got the safeties on the bottom. It's just easy to put the bands around, and then the pull-up bar. And it's right underneath, right on top of or underneath where the bar would go.
No, it was great. It was great. I hadn't done that in a long time.
You know what I like about it? Besides the strength gains and stuff, because I get really strong really fast when I use bands. And in addition to the weight, what I really like about it is when I start to feel aches and pains. If you start to feel aches and pains, like hip pain from your squatting or knee pain, or maybe pain at the insertion when you're benching here at the pec, use the bands for assistance, and it allows you to train with a high intensity, and you feel almost nothing on those areas. I did it today, so I have a little strain here at the insertion of my pec, and I used the bands today, and it's like I couldn't, and I pushed it with the intensity. I couldn't have done that
a lot
with
smoother resistance. Yeah,
Yes.
I don't really know how to describe it other than that.
It's really weird.
Do you guys, what do you think of comparing that to Mark Bell's tool that he created that I know that was his invention?
Oh, the slingshot.
Yeah.
So I like the slingshot a lot. I think it's way more convenient. You don't need to attach bands to anything. So slingshot you could use on any bench.
Similar sort of premise. I mean, you get that elastic energy potential, I guess is what they call that. And then, gives you that help right at the very bottom of the lift where you need it the most. And, sort of comes. So it all like goes within the same premise of what you
So what I didn't like about the slingshot was that it pulled.
I was just going to say, it changes your technique.
Yeah, it changes. That's not how I would bench, right? So that's not exactly where my elbows were. Where
you have to focus on
some more narrow almost.
Yeah.
I found that too.
And so when I'm wanting when I'm just playing with the strength curve, which is what we're doing with bands, I don't want to have to manipulate my normal technique because I'm looking for the carryover when I don't have the assistance, right? Mm-hmm. The idea is that I can just get rid of these bands and now I feel like. And I know that, and the tool is awesome because I know Mark has got all kinds of stuff to back, like how much it has helped benching and stuff like that. And it absolutely can.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
I use it.
This isn't by far. This is not, or by any means, this is not a knock on the tool. I just prefer.
I've used it a lot.
I just prefer the bands.
Well, so
it makes a difference on the size too, like because I was using one that was a little too small and would pinch, to like restrict a little bit of blood flow.
Big old pipes you got there.
Yeah,
you know what it is that the slingshot encourages powerlifter bench press. Yeah. It encourages that tucked
kind of tricep tight.
If you're going for like a bodybuilder bench, what I found is that because elbows more flared, you have to like really extend your elbows out and
you
create
can't
force.
not with that thing,
right?
Yeah, you can't,
and it makes the bench kind of different, right? It makes it different. So I like the bands a little bit more on that one. Yep. All right, so did you guys hear about? I think it was Walmart is removing their self checkout stands.
They're doing that now.
That's not the only thing they're doing.
Yeah. I swear, I've heard that. Was it Whole Foods because Amazon took them over? They were going to like overhaul the Whole Foods at one point, and you were just going to be able to walk.
So that is happening. That's still going on. Okay. Yeah, it's called Amazon Go Stores, I believe is what it's called. And then what he's referring to, I believe, has to do with theft.
Yes.
Oh.
So and there's not just Walmart. There's like a lot of grocery store chains that are getting rid of their self checkout because theft has exploded recently, and it's obviously due to the prices of everything have just inflated like crazy. And I'm sure people, when inflation goes crazy, it's like the people at the bottom that really suffer, who are like, oh, I barely saved $20 a month. Like, what am I going to do now? So I guess those self-checkouts make it easy to steal.
So they like put it in the bag and then don't
like you go up with your cart and you just, and to be honest with you, if I think about it, when I do self-checkout, like I could totally take a bunch of shit. Like there's people, there's one person
not
watching.
Very well managed. Yeah.
Well, what is I can't believe I can't think of the name. There's a term for that when you're with. I mean, we had a 24-hour fitness. I remember when that was so
loss prevention.
Yeah, well, that's LP is what is the or the part of the department that's responsible for it. Is it called shrink or is it called?
Oh.
There's a name for it, right? It's like at the tip of my tongue right now. I can't think of what it's called. It's
like a predictable amount that you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of companies just factor. I mean, 20. I didn't know it until I had to manage.
You have to factor it in.
Yeah, you just factor it in. Oh, we have, and I'm just going to call it shrink for now until Doug figures out what the actual term is. I don't think that's it. That we have
this is our average every
10
month.
to 15,000 every month. Mm-hmm. It's like whoa, and I remember when I was there before LP came along, and then LP came later on, and one of the biggest offenders was our own employees.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
own employees.
Same when I worked at the restaurant.
See, I mean, I wonder what is it called?
Shrinkage.
Oh, it is shrinkage.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was right. Okay, so.
It's like when you take a cold shower.
Yeah, when you walk out of the pool and it's cold.
So it is shrinkage. Yeah, so we would adjust for that, and I remember
they have to adjust for shrinkage.
Yeah.
I don't know about your husband over there. No,
but it was a really high number. I mean, you figure thousands of dollars per facility, and when you're talking about 24-hour fitness or Walmart, how many locations does Walmart have? You're talking about millions of dollars that you're losing.
Walmart's the biggest employer in America?
Yeah.
I know. So, what's funny about that is, and I remember talking to, I fired many people for stealing, But I got rid of somebody for stealing from the gym, right? So it's a corporate gym, big 24-hour fitness locations, right? So like, I don't know how many, at the time we had 200 something locations. And I fired him for stealing a protein bar. And I remember them being like, what's the big deal? It's a big corporation. Like, who am I hurting? I said, do you know that they have to account for all this loss, takes away from the profit, which means people like you, me, and everybody else gets paid less, and we have to charge the consumer more. So although you feel like it doesn't affect you, it actually does. In fact, right now you got caught and you're getting fired. But besides that, you think it's this nameless, faceless entity, but because of this, and you think you get away with it, maybe you do, but the times you do buy things, all those prices reflect their shrinkage that they have to calculate. So when they do that $10,000, $15,000 a month calculation, that goes into the price of products, services, and goods, which for the honest person who's barely making ends meet,
so
that's not cool.
Initially, when you mentioned this to me off air, my first thing was, okay, well, of course, Walmart attracts lower income, and then things like inflations are tighter, so of course it's just going to drive people, and then it's easy to steal, so it's going to drive them to steal. But actually, maybe it's employees. Maybe it's more employees. Maybe it's employees maybe it's employees who are in an inflationary economy right now who didn't get a raise and are getting paid low wages while everything is increasing within the place that they work, and they're kind of like, fuck the man.
Well, bro,
and they have that same attitude.
Think about how easy this would be. Yeah. You're the one kid who's working the self-checkout stands, right? So there's normally 6 or 8, and there's one person watching, and your friend knows to come shop at the time you're there. Yeah. You're gonna turn a blind eye. That's what I think's happening. I think it's like, my buddy works at this time. I show up, take a couple steaks. Nobody knows the difference.
I've done that when we were kids.
Did you really?
I did.
Oh,
I did.
Is this your?
Yeah, it's my
bad confessional.
Years,
your
right?
Confession?
I am. You just made me. I hadn't even thought about that memory in a long time.
At a grocery store?
Yeah, my best friend was a checker at this grocery store called New Deal when we were kids. We were like 16, 17 years old. And I remember that we would come in late at night and we'd fill up our grocery cart. And then he would know because he knows where the manager is, and when they would go in the back to do like inventory or something. And then we would go through, and we would pay for some, but it would be like skip 3 things, pay for. So it looked like, so we'd go through the whole process. And I mean, we'd probably take something that was a $300-$400 grocery bill and make it like a $50 grocery bill or something like that. We did that several times.
I only stole one time in my life, and it was beads of all things. Do you guys remember when? I know you guys are like, "What's going on here?" Beads, before you make fun of me, all right? Do you know?
This is where the hippie fascination comes in.
No. Yeah. Do you guys remember when parkas were the thing? The big sport, like football
starter parkas.
Yes,
dude? Yeah,
yes. And so where I went to school, I don't know if it was a thing when you guys went to school, but I had a San Francisco 49er parka I got for Christmas. It was like $100. My parents got it for me. I begged for it. And then the cool thing was to put the drawstrings to put beads on them. I don't know if you guys remember this. Do you guys do this?
Yes, totally did.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get beads. I went with my buddies. These were all bad influences. These weren't the greatest friends. And they were like, just take them, dude. Just take them. And under that pressure, that whatever. And I could have bought them, but I took them. I swear to God, every day, not every day, but I regret it so much. Every time I think about it, I'm like, what an idiot. I was like $5.
Well, I mean, I think at that age, I mean, when I think back to,
I was doing it more to be cool, I think.
Yeah, that wasn't we didn't have a lot of money. I was actually living on my own by this time and had my own stuff to pay for, so I justified it like that.
You had real reasons.
Yeah, well, I mean, I still think they're unexcusable, right? And I think probably as a young kid, I didn't understand how it works, and I don't understand how that trickles down to everybody. And really, ultimately, I'm fucking a lot more people than the guy who I think is rich. And I think that's the problem. I think too many people. I mean, God, that's what's wrong with our society right now is we think that, it's the rich, or it's this guy, get over. And it's like, man, I potentially, if I do that, and 10 other people do that, and then there's a single mother who works 2 jobs who needs that job, who now gets laid off because their profit margins are gone. Like, you don't think like that. You know what I'm saying? You're a 16-year-old punk kid. I'm thinking selfishly just about me, my needs, this and that, and I'm comparing it to the guy who's at the top of this and how rich he is. And it's like, man, it's like, if I had somebody that was wise enough to sit me down and explain that to me, I think I'm a good enough person that I would have put that together. But right away, the way you justify it is like, oh, the man, it's the man, he's rich. It's like, he's not gonna miss $75 worth of groceries.
My buddy, I'll say my cousin, so I don't have to say a name. I have so many cousins, so nobody's gonna know who it was. But my cousin got caught because he did the same thing, peer pressure, and him and his friend would steal ties from Macy's and then return them at another Macy's, get store credit and get what they wanted because ties were easy to steal. got caught. And my family's they're old school. You don't steal. You're honest. Man, his dad sat him down, and he just, when he talks about it to this day, you can see the look on his face. Like, I disappointed my dad so bad. Like, he felt so terrible. They made him, he had to go back, return everything. They threatened to put him in jail. His dad's like, if that's what you guys are going to do, that's what you got to do. You got to pay the price. So, but luckily that they let him off the hook. But
so does this mean then for Walmarts that they're going to add checkers again and like employ more people in replace of that?
Yeah, because I think what they're calculating is the loss versus the extra cost of employing someone. And they're like, oh, we're going to lose this much less. If we have
you know, it sucks when it backfires and they realize that it's the employees that were already stealing. They just hired more employees. It's so bad to say, but
oh man,
maybe that was the plan.
Then it'll be very clear at that point, right? Like we've narrowed it down.
Second. We hired more people. We got more theft going on.
Hey, when the robot revolution happens, you laid us off. You laid us off.
You know what? When you originally when you had Walmart and those, I thought you were gonna, Walmart is getting in the banking.
I heard you say this.
Yeah,
what?
Dad,
Dad,
will you?
hey, Dad.
Yes, hey, Freudian slips today. I don't know. You guys go a lot of trips together.
Hey, Daddy, would you look up Walmart into the banking sector?
Doug's definitely he's the dad.
Look this up, Dad. Tie my shoes.
And while you're doing that, tell me about your thieving stories. I know you were a big thief when you were younger.
Oh,
I can tell you one story that I'm aware of. I may have done it more than once, but I remember a friend of mine had not a friend, it was a neighbor. He had a softball, and for some reason I wanted that softball, so I took it. I mean, I don't know. I remember that to this day, though, because
you're going to hell, Doug.
It ate at me, right?
Did he ever find out, or did you give it back? Or
no, I don't think he ever found out.
I think the only
Doug is like.
I think I may have eventually just taken it and threw it back into his garage.
You're like one of the best people I know. Seriously, I'm not joking. So to hear you tell that, it just cracks me up.
Yeah,
Doug will never do. He does nothing
mine's
wrong.
Pretty weak. I didn't tell any, but it was just like a pack of gum, and then we got caught, and I had to put it back. Yeah, but the other one,
25-cent pack.
Adam robbed a bank or something. He's not even telling us.
Dude, I was hanging
You're
out
only
with
getting the grocery store. That's as far as I'm gonna go.
For sure, I was hanging out with dudes though that were doing like B&Es, and I was like,
wow.
and I was with them in one of them, and just was like, what's like, you're just with a group of guys, and like, oh, look at this, and like somebody just like kind of walks over to this house that we knew,
dude,
because we're in an area that has like cabins and people aren't always there. And so they knew that this one was like not occupied, and so they just like went in there. Let's go check this out.
All for the thrill.
And then they kicked the door, and they all went in there, and they're like, "Come on!" I'm like, no. And then I just had this like I was in a pickle. Like, do I go with my friends or not? And then I just beelined it out of there. I'm like, no, I'm not.
I could
never.
I could never do something like that. I think that's like it's. I totally remember the rationale behind the grocery store. Like you don't have a face to the person. You don't think
it just seems
you think corporate. You think it like so. It totally that's what you're thinking. Like anybody who's had something stolen from there, it's like that's the worst feeling ever. If coming back and I've had 2 cars stolen.
I had
stuff stolen out of my house.
Oh, someone broke into my house, and it was they stole.
Awful,
bro. Awful. We came. First of all, I became a vigilante for like a year afterwards. You guys all know that because as a father,
I can see you losing your shit.
Oh, bro, as a father, I was just like, I'm not gonna sleep, and hopefully they come back.
Did you get a sword?
Yeah, like a machete or something.
I got all kinds of stuff.
The finest cutlery, all freshly stoned.
Dude, I went shopping for weapons.
Ninja stars.
Booby traps,
nunchucks.
Bro, they stole. My son was 5. He was 5 years old.
Yeah,
they stole his piggy bank.
Oh, it's so dirty, dude.
What a piece of shit.
Yeah.
He looked at me. I remember he went in his room and I said, and he comes out and he goes, Papa, they took my money.
Oh my!
And the look on his little face, and I was like, I'm gonna murder someone.
What a heartless bastard!
I know. Actually, I had to talk. I've talked with him about being, because this is this is true for girls too, but especially for boys, where you're hanging out with a bunch of buddies, and then they all start doing something and all of a sudden you're in a situation where you're like, I need to break away or not. Like that is a tough situation for a boy to be in. What does that say there?
So it looks like they're getting into checking accounts.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have a lot of details about what they're going to call their bank or what they're going to provide as far as services, but checking is the big thing. It looks like.
So my buddy who has a bank, says that it's like obviously extremely difficult. But then I've also heard people tell me that like it's kind of like owning a sports team, like it's guaranteed to be profitable. It's one of those things that like if you can, like the hardest part of the bank supposedly, and the same thing with getting a team is acquiring the team or actually getting the bank, like through going through all
the process must be insane.
Yeah, the process, the regulations, everything like that. But once you get it, like I thought I heard that like everyone is profitable.
Well, think of the leverage that Walmart could do.
Insured, like a lot of the transactions.
That's why I think That's why I think it's so profitable. I mean, I'm speaking out the side of my neck right now, but that's what I've heard.
I'm wondering about how they're going to leverage this, because if you have a checking account with Walmart, do you get discounts? Do you get special offers on products if you use your checking?
I'm sure
your check card.
I'm sure they'll do something like that.
So they could really leverage the hell out. Speaking of money, I read an article I thought that was very interesting, and it was by investment advisors and people who work with teaching people how to kind of work with money and stuff. And they all agreed that a person should spend no more than 10% of their gross annual income on a car. So in other words, if you make $100,000 a year, 10 grand. That's what they all agreed on.
Okay, so does that mean 10 grand total for the car? If you make $100,000 a year, you shouldn't be driving cars, or 10 grand a year?
10 grand a year.
Okay.
So 10%, no less than 10% or more than 10%.
Okay, so that's
like
different than
payments.
Exactly. So when you and I first originally, I was thinking like, that's crazy. Someone who makes $100K only like they're justifying only a $10,000 car, but the average car loan, let's say, is 5 to 7 years. So say 5 years. That's a $50,000 car. So that's basically a $50,000 car, right? Is which that seems reasonable for.
Hold on, let me pull it up here. It says here.
I remember that stat in the Millionaire Next Door actually talked about. I thought this was really interesting. You know that it's more common that
it's the purchase price. I was wrong.
That's crazy.
Spend no more than 10%.
Nobody does that.
Nobody does that.
A $10,000 car.
Yeah, he says
not
literally
even make $100K.
He literally says if you make $42,000 a year, you should limit your budget to $4,200. And now the reason for this is that nothing will lose you more money faster than a car. Like almost nothing.
Yeah, it's a terrible investment.
It's horrible. It loses money the day you buy it. And then they talk about the maintenance costs. Opportunity cost obviously is massive.
This is a classic and you don't drive it. Yeah.
but financing has changed that. That's the thing. Car financing has changed all of that. You got people making $100,000 a year buying $50,000 cars.
More than that. Yeah. A lot of people have most people that make $100,000 a year go out and get $100,000 car.
That's crazy.
I mean, pretty close.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Rarely, I mean,
I see it all the time.
$50,000. You don't get much for a $50,000 car these days. I mean, that's kind of like I don't even know what is the average purchase price of a car now. I believe it's up towards. I think I read that 40.
No, it can't be that high.
Average is up to 40 or 50.
That's crazy.
Yes. I mean, go real quick, bro. Toyota Camry, basic car. Honda Accord, basic car.
Not gonna be $50,000.
I'm saying, huh?
Not $50,000.
47,000.
Oh my God, that's the average.
Yep.
Yeah, that's all the economic, the economy cars are in that class. Like it's all like 40 to 50.
Oh yeah, you want an electric car? You're definitely up there.
Yeah, you know what it is. The way that they get people is the first time I bought a car. I remember my buddy sitting me down and he explained it to me. He goes, "The sales guy is going to try to close you on the monthly payments." He goes, "Don't worry about that until you get the price you want." Because what they'll do is be like, "How much can you pay per month?" And then they finagle it into whatever car.
I remember. So our buddy Jason, real good friend of ours, been in the car industry forever. I've actually bought several cars from him.
Is he still at DGDG?
Uh-huh.
If you're in the Bay Area and you go get a car at DGDG, you can ask for Jason.
Yeah, he was the finance manager forever. And I'll never forget the first car. We were good friends, right? And I was buying my first truck that I got through him, and he runs all my credit, and exactly like that. He's like, and he's doing it still even as a friend. He's like, where do you want? Is it more about the payment you want, or I was like, yeah, just keep my pay. I don't remember what it was back then. I think back then I wanted my payments to be under $500 or something, right? Like it needs to be under $500 a month, and then can we do that? He's like, yeah, absolutely. What they do is when they call the bank, and they normally do this phone call away from you. So they normally will go, okay, let me go talk to my manager, or let me go run your credit, and they'll walk away so they can then call the bank. And they'll call the bank and say, hey, I've got this kid, he's 25 years old, his score is 700 credit score, he makes $80,000 a year, what can he get? And then the bank will go, oh, we will approve him for a five-year loan for 5.6% interest. And then the sales guy comes walking back in, he says, hey, great news. I got off the phone with the bank says that you're approved for 6.8%. Awesome. And then you go, yeah. And they make the cream. That's how
They
they
just add?
Yes, they add whatever they, and back in the days they used to be able to do it. Now I think there's more regulation around it today, but back in the days they were able to juice that as much as they want.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
why they hate when I go to a credit union first and get the loan and then go to the car dealership.
Of
Well, and then
course.
what they do to you is this. So if they get you pinned and why they want you to say payment, they go, so let's say
Then they can fit whatever they
well,
want.
then they
to.
go like this, like, okay, so let's say I got approved for a 5.6 for 5 years and that would have had my payment right around there. Then he goes like, or we can get your payment down to like 480, Adam, but it's a 7-year, but then it's now 6.9 or 7.2%.
And they're getting the extra. Wow.
So that's what they make the difference between the two.
Those
And he called the bank in front of me and on speakerphone, and the guy's like, "Oh yeah, I'm here with my buddy who's doing this and that." And he goes, "Do you want to take me off speakerphone?" And he's like, "No, it's okay. Shoot me straight across in front of him. He's a good friend of mine like that." And then he told me
Wow.
yeah, and then he told me, he's like, that's how we make our big money is people financing, and then we can get them a better loan or a better percentage, and then they will finance it at a higher rate.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is, by the way, one of the best hustles for anybody who needs to get a good deal on a car loan is to let the dealership give you whatever you want, and then turn right around and go to a credit union
Refi it.
afterwards, and go through another bank and say, hey, I've
Pay
got
it
this.
off,
Yeah.
and then you got a better rate.
Yeah, I mean, even if you don't, you would pay it off through the credit union, and they'll give you normally a credit union will give you one of the best rates that you can get out there, and then you're not playing the whole game.
Always.
And they don't want you to do that, by the way.
No.
They know you're gonna.
they
You don't
hate
tell them, don't disclose that, but you do that. That's the best way to
Wow.
get a better deal. But that's 10,000 is. I mean, that's kind of unrealistic. I don't know anybody that does that.
I mean, you got a car.
But when you brought that point up, it reminded me of the book Millionaire Next Door, and I wish I could, and I'm probably going to screw it up. Maybe I'll look up later like the exact stats on how this works. But one of the things I found really interesting when I read the book was one of the things that most millionaires had in common was that, well, not only do they live well below their means, one of those ways is like the cars they drove.
Mm-hmm.
So like as they were up in income, the price range of the cars were much lower.
Yep.
So you have like people that like, and I can't remember the exact, so don't quote me on this, but it was like someone who makes, $80,000 to $100,000 a year has a car that's, $80,000 to $100,000. But then the person who makes like $1 million a year drives like a 50,000. So it was really kind of interesting.
Now, why do you think that is? Do you think it's the money habits because and that's what led to them being successful?
The number one factor in the book, or this with the book, the number one, because when you look at millionaires all over the country, they range from everything from plumbers to teachers to lawyers to doctors to everything.
Yeah.
Most of them make it in real estate.
85% of millionaires in America are self-made.
That's right. And most of them make it through real estate, right? They own a property that appreciated over years. So most of it has been made through owning a home early on. And most of the people that got there by living below their needs, significantly well below their means. And they got there fast enough that they were able to hold on to their house for decades. And
So they've built these.
So that's the number one thing that all millionaires have in common is the ability to live well below their means. Above all, they try and tie it to jobs or different characteristics. Like that's the number one thing that they all have in common.
I had a client that I trained who was a vascular surgeon, very successful, obviously probably made a ton of money, and he drove this 200 and something thousand mile Toyota 4Runner. Like it was just beat up.
Those things last forever.
And he just never, he never bought anything. He loved it, And this guy, I know, he's a vascular surgeon. He made a lot of money.
Well, this is why I think it's so the journey to increasing your income. It reminds me of a lot how you talk about like how important the journey of your weight loss goal is and everything you learn. I feel like that's how like when you're making more and more money. I mean, when I think of my own trajectory, it looks kind of like this. Like it's this. If you look at the line, it's been a gradual increase with some dips and peaks and valleys along the way. And along that whole journey, I've learned a lot of lessons and have built better behaviors around money. If I look at my behaviors and the way I spent money in my 20s, it's significantly different than in my 30s, and now even more different in now my 40s. And so I think the most important part of all that was the learned knowledge of years of thinking I have a lot of money when really I don't have a lot of money, or thinking this gravy train will never end, and then it does eventually end, or thinking the economy is going to keep going in this direction, and then it doesn't. It's like, I've learned that over hard lessons over years. And so, Katrina will laugh and tease that, because we've been together for 12 years, that I'm cheaper now than I ever was. She's like, this is so backwards.
That's hilarious. Well, speaking of markets, it's interesting. So I was talking to some of my cousins about the Sleep Me, which previously known as the Chili Pad company we've been working with a long time. So
Did they just change their name recently?
Sleep Me, yeah, now. So now it's Sleep Me. So instead of Chili Pad, same product, right?
Sleep
Goes on
me, bro.
What's your any? Sorry to interrupt your commercial, but I'm just curious what your guys' thoughts
why
are.
they changed it.
Yeah, why?
I don't know. Is it because people thought Chili Pad was like spicy
or Uller? I mean,
I don't know. Maybe they did a test group and that name just kind of popped out for them.
Well, isn't their number one competitor the Sleep Number or something like that? Isn't like their number one competitor?
No,
I think it is. I think
Sleep Number's different. Sleep Number changes the mattress firmness.
Right.
The Sleep Me is a pad that goes on the mattress that can cool or warm the bed and adjust to your body.
Yeah, so maybe there's an association there with the Sleep Number, and then the Sleep Me is sort of the cool and heat.
I don't know.
But
I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? But either way, it's an awesome product.
To me, I think it's kind of obvious. I mean, if you say Chili Pad or Uller to someone who has no idea what we're talking about, they would not even have a close guess to what that means. If I just said to a random stranger, "Hey, you know what a Chili Pad or an Uller is?" and they'd be like, "No idea." If you said Sleep Me, I bet you they have some sort of had something to do with sleep. Was it? I mean,
something will do sleep in you.
Yeah.
Well, I was talking to him.
Down.
I was talking to him about it, and I had talked to him about it years ago, and he never took action. Well, anyway, I brought it up again, and then he brought up all these competitors. You know how much the market has grown?
Yeah.
It has exploded, and which is a good sign. This means that people are seeing value, right? If you can cool or warm your bed, you'll notice significant improvements in sleep. But I was surprised to see how much that market has exploded. There's now mattresses that come with these type of technologies.
Yeah.
So where you buy the mattress and it has this technology in it.
Oh, I was going to bring up, me and Adam were talking with Corey after the podcast a bit, and he was saying, oh yeah, I've heard about those, like that they actually had challenges amongst the players as to how low and they could bring the temperature down. And the byproduct of that was they both got the best sleeps they've had in their life.
Yeah, you know how he tracks like HRV and all these things?
Yeah.
So it was kind of cool. He's like, they had a bunch of players on the team and stuff that were...
Oh, these are pro NBA players.
Yeah, that were getting in competition of who could sleep with it the coldest. And they were just fucking around, like who could drop... And Justin and I were laughing. We're like, I sleep at the very 55.
We're like, we were already there.
As low as it'll go. And he goes, yeah, you know what the outcome was? And I'm like, of course, better sleep. He's like, yes, that's exactly what we saw was the colder they were willing to put that thing in sleep, the better sleep they quality
Have you guys experimented yet with it warming up to wake you up?
Mine's all set. So
it warms up to get you awake. Isn't that weird?
Yeah,
you wake up you wake up naturally. It's the weirdest thing. It's such a trip. Combine that with the light, the alarm clock. That
I definitely
glows.
do that. Yeah, the light.
I think the most important lesson for somebody who owns these or is looking to get one that I have to communicate to everybody is, and that it took me a while to really figure it out, is it really does matter, especially if you sleep hot. I sleep really hot. To let it get to its temperature that you want it at before you get into bed.
Yes, I do 15 minutes before.
Oh, I do hours before.
Oh, wow.
I do like 3 hours before now. I used to do an hour, and then sometimes it wouldn't be all the way down to 55 by the time I get in there. Oh, wow. And so then, because if
that's right, because you guys go freezing.
If it's trying to get,
I do about an hour, but I should,
because it'll never get, your body temperature is so hot. So if you're somebody who wants it at the bottom 55, and you get in at it and it's at 67, it's still working its way down, it'll never get down to 55. Your body temperature is so hot, it'll counter it.
I see.
And it'll never get to that. So you have to let it get all the way to that cool. And then it does a great job of managing the temperature at there once it's there. But I mean, I don't think there's just enough horsepower in those suckers to drop it when you got your body temperatures that's working against it the entire time.
Especially when you're super hot.
Ooh, yeah.
Check this out. There's a company we work with called Organifi. High quality ingredients, convenience, great tasting. Organifi's superfood blends make it easy and enjoyable to add more variety and nutrition to your day. Great products. They're all organic, plant-based. My favorite right now is the red juice. I'm drinking this quite often because I'm off caffeine, or at least I'm lowering my caffeine intake. So it's natural energy, makes me feel good. But they have much more. You got to go check this company out. They're the longest sponsor we have that we've worked with for a reason. Go to Organifi.com. That's ORGANIFI.com/MindPump. Then use the code MindPump for 20% off. All right, here comes the rest of the show.
Our first caller is Amanda from Denmark.
Amanda, thanks for calling in. It's good to have you.
Thank you. Nice to see you guys. Okay, I'm just going to read up what I've been written down.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Amanda and I'm 25 years old. First, I have to say thank you very much for all the content that you put out. I've been listening to the podcast for a very long time and I've learned so much from you. I even got my parents to start lifting weights with a personal trainer and they don't have any joint pain now. So thank you for learning me so I can learn them.
Excellent.
After listening to you guys, I started lifting weights 1.5 years ago, and I've done MAPS Anabolic twice, and now I'm in MAPS in phase 4 of MAPS Performance. My original question was that I don't really see any progress in my pull-ups. I know that you had said that the exercise that you want to be better at, you have to do more of. But my problem is that I can't even do one. Is there any exercise that I can do to strengthen the muscles that I have to use doing a pull-up? Or do you have any tips on getting better at that? And also, what would you suggest that I do after MAPS Performance? I bought MAPS Aesthetic, but I'm not sure if I should do MAPS Anabolic again, and then Performance, and then Aesthetic. I also have to mention that I have never been lifting very heavy before, so I'm still learning to go into my workouts with the mindset of lifting and not getting a sweat on, because I've always been running a lot and doing a lot of like repetitions, hit cardio, you know.
No, really good question. Okay,
Great question.
So to follow up with MAPS Performance, you can do MAPS Anabolic again, or you can get into MAPS Aesthetic. Just keep in mind that MAPS Aesthetic is very high volume. So if you start to feel burnt out or a little stiff or too sore, then I would back off on the volume and cut the sets down. But let's talk about pull-ups for a second. Do you have access to like a pull-up bar that you could have at home, something you can put in your doorway that you can?
No,
okay,
I don't have one, but I was thinking about buying one.
Yeah, so you can get one. They're really inexpensive. They go in the doorway, and they have ones that kind of go like they anchor on the other side of the door, so they're very stable. And then what you do is you attach a resistance band to it, a long resistance band that you can step into.
Put your knee in.
Helps lift your body weight. So you can either step into it or put your knee into it, depending on how long the resistance band is. And you want to get one that's strong enough that'll actually lift you so that you can do a rep or two. And then my suggestion is to practice doing a rep or two frequently, like literally like 2 or 3 times a day. So you walk by the pull-up bar, you put your knee or your foot into the resistance band, pull yourself up once, come back down, and then go about your day and then try doing that again. The key is to keep the intensity low. So you're not going to make it a hard pull-up. You should get a band that lifts you enough to where it's, you know, where you lift yourself and there's some effort, but it's not super hard. And just practice 1 or 2 at a time throughout the day. Now, to offset that kind of volume, I would reduce the back volume in MAPS Performance or MAPS Aesthetic or MAPS Anabolic, just to make up the difference. But if you practice a moderate intensity pull-up several times a day on most days, you should rapidly see your strength improve and your ability to do a pull-up improve.
Justin, are the bands that we have in the gym, are they PRX or are those Kettlebell Kings? Whose bands are those thick ones?
Kettlebell Kings and because we have rubber bandits that we have as like a bundled package.
Yeah, but
that
not
we
that.
sell, but
That's not good for
this
her.
is the Kettlebell Kings is
Yeah,
great.
because you want. So I think we should clarify, right, the bands, because you're gonna when you need a band to assist for like pull-ups. Typically, the little bands that like what we sell actually are not enough, in my opinion. Like you want something that you can assist you enough to where you could get like 10 pull-ups, and that's how I would get at least 2 or 3 bands, and they'll tell you the strength on there as far as like the support, the thicker ones. And then start off with the one that really assists you and helps you get like 10, and then you have the other one that just assists you a little bit less, and then you can get maybe 5 or 8 with that one, and then you have one that barely assists you that maybe you can only get 1 or 2, and work through the bands like that and get good at all levels, and then eventually be able to do it with no bands, and then still sticking to the advice that Sal is saying, where every day kind of try to hop up there and grab 1 or 2.
Now, if you want to make it more simple, if you have trouble finding the right bands and you want to make it really easy, you can get the pull-up bar, and you could get a chair so you could stand up to the pull-up bar so that it's up to your chin, right? So it's almost like you finished a pull-up, and then hold on and then take your feet off the chair and support yourself for 5 seconds and then come down and practice that every day. And then to progress from there, you would hold on to the bar and then lower yourself with control and then practice that every day. And then eventually get to the point where you could lift yourself with the bar. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Perfect. But yeah, after you're done with performance, I think aesthetic is perfectly fine. But if you feel like you need to drop the volume, I would go for MAPS Anabolic again, and then back to MAPS Aesthetic.
And one of the ways you could do that without actually even changing the program is switch out the focus sessions for the mobility days that are in performance. Since you have all those programs and performance, I don't know how much you're enjoying the mobility days. Those are more recuperative type of workouts. So if you feel like aesthetic is a little taxing, sometimes what I'll do for somebody is just, hey, let's get rid of the other 2 days of training and actually turn them into mobility days. That tends to do the job for most people for MAPS Aesthetic. So keep that in mind too.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think that was it.
All right. Hey, Amanda, we really appreciate you listening to the show, and thanks for calling in all the way from Denmark. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye. So just, and I hope she watches this just to get more detailed. So before I use bands with pull-ups for clients, I would actually use isometrics.
Great advice. I don't think we've given that advice on here before.
And I forgot. I did this early days, and I had a client who she would practice holding herself at the top, and then another time of the day I'd have her practice holding herself midway, and then another way where she was kind of all the way down.
Yep.
And so she would just practice this all day. And isometrics are pretty cool because you get strength gains really fast, and the strength gains carry over to a little bit beyond the position.
I don't remember if it's 6 to 15 degrees.
Yeah.
I think you said 15.
Yeah, I think it's 15.
Yeah. So if you did like top, middle, bottom, and you practice that every day, and you can hold it for 3 seconds or so, you're going to gain strength in that full range, and then eventually get to the point where you can do.
Wouldn't you also? So if you're prescribing that, like I would tell a client to try and increase the time you hold, right? That would be the goal. Like start off, and even if you can only hold for like 3 or 5 seconds, a couple seconds, and then get to where you can hold for 5 seconds, and then try and get to where you can hold 10 seconds. If you can get to a place where you can hold those isometric positions for longer and longer, it'll eventually get to a point. So I think it was great advice. I don't think we've actually utilized that actually.
Yeah, especially at the top. I mean, that's really the last hurdle for the most part for people to be able to complete and get that last bit of pull over, would get their chin over the bar. So it's perfect for that.
I can't help but think of, we just had a great interview with a friend of ours that will air soon, Corey Schlesinger, and the assisted bands has got to be one of the best.
I mean, it's ideal, but I'd say I don't know how hard the pull-up is for her.
Right.
For some people, you might need a really strong band. That's hard to maneuver for some people.
That's why I made that point.
Well, yeah, no, that's a good point. I believe it's Living Fit. It's not Kettlebell King, so it's like a side adjacent business to that. But yeah, they make really quality bands. You want those thick bands.
Thick one, yeah. So she's watching this video. It's not the little skinny bands or the tubes that people do like arm curls and like upper body exercises. You want the thick bands that normally you see people attached to like free weights.
Yeah.
That you need something with more support.
Our next caller is Calvin from New York.
Calvin, what's happening? How can we help you?
Hey guys, how's it going? Good to be here.
Good.
I'm calling in because last month I just finished the first phase of MAPS Performance and really liked it. So thank you for that. But then I just moved house. I've just after moved to New York there recently, and so I've got a lot of stuff going on, like getting the house ready, new job, stuff like that. So I don't have access to a gym, so I can't really complete MAPS Performance. But I did just buy some suspension trainers, like Olympic rings. So I'm looking to incorporate them. It's really good for like upper body workout, I feel. But then I'm just afraid that like my lower body, legs, like my squat, it's going to be, it's not going to progress at all. So I'm wondering what kind of what I can do to just to keep progressing my legs while using suspension trainers or any sort of at-home workout.
A lot of single leg stuff.
Yeah, man. Pistol squats are not easy. I don't know. Have you ever done a single leg squat?
I actually do pistol squats. Yeah.
Excellent. So single leg squats, slow down the tempo, real controlled, real slow. Single leg deadlifts, single leg toe touches,
Bulgarian split squats.
Yeah, and slow down the tempo. You can also do explosive style stuff, but this depends on your control and stability. But like a plyo jump, plyo type landings, like that stimulates fast twitch muscle fibers as well. Now keep in mind you will lose some strength in certain lifts because you're not practicing those lifts. So if you're not squatting with the barbell, even if you kept the muscle up, there's a certain amount of skill that you end up losing by not practicing that lift. So it doesn't necessarily mean you lost muscle. It just means you've been out of practice with that particular skill or whatever. But I mean, there's a lot of single leg exercises you can do, especially if you do them slow and controlled, that are pretty intense.
Well, I think too, you'd be surprised. It may feel like you're going to lose gains whenever you kind of shift into this direction, but a lot of times you're just reinforcing more stability around your joints that need it. Which then, that's one of those that translates when you go back to any kind of bi-loaded type of exercise. So it there may be a bit of a drop off, but overall, you may be reinforcing things that need attention, which then may help you progress even further when you come back.
I think the hardest part of this is the mental aspect. It's when you like to squat and deadlift and you've got pretty good strength in those areas, and then all of a sudden you lose the ability to get to that equipment or those tools, and now you're forced to just figure it out body weight. I mean, the truth is, I think you could even progress without that. I think it's very much so possible. But it's the discipline of, okay, now I'm doing these slow single leg, pistol squats and single leg deadlift stuff. That's like, it's hard when you like gripping onto 300-400 pounds and feeling the weight move like that. But if you don't ever train that way, I think your body actually could see great benefits from training that way. It's just when I've been in similar situations, what I find the most challenging is just I like to lift a heavy weight.
That's 100%.
But the truth is, if I were to discipline myself and like really do slow tempo pistol squats, I mean, I know it would blow my legs up because I know I can. There's been times where I can squat 400 pounds, but could barely do 10 slow pistol squats. It's like, so there's plenty of room for me to progress in that area. And grow and build my legs without squatting. It's just that I just rarely discipline myself to do that long enough. So if you've got the mental discipline to do it, the capabilities are there, believe it or not.
Yeah, and it says in your question you do jiu-jitsu a few times a week. You may actually notice some improvements in your jiu-jitsu from changing your training, actually. Okay. Yeah.
And then as a program to focus on, like I was looking at MAPS Suspension or MAPS Anywhere. Is there either one you'd recommend since I have the suspension trainer, or is there any leg development in the suspension training?
Oh yeah.
Program? Or?
Yeah. No, it's full body.
Yeah. That'd be a great one for you.
Yeah, we'll send that to you, Calvin.
Okay, great. Nice one. Nope. All right, thanks for all the content, guys. We appreciate it.
You got it, man. Thanks for calling in.
All right, go on. Have a great day. See you.
Right on.
He had his accent sounded a lot like Conor McGregor.
Oh yeah.
He's
I
like,
didn't catch that.
Yeah. I get what you're saying, Adam. I think that's 100% because that's what would mess with me. It's not that I couldn't find exercises that would be good.
It's just doing them.
Yeah, it's just doing them. Yeah, because I love barbells and dumbbells so much.
I mean, there's been times where I'm just being completely transparent with the audience where I've told myself I'm going to do this, and then I quit.
Yeah,
because I don't like it as much, and it's like and I suck at it. Like just being real, it's a
different feel.
It is.
Well, and I mean, in terms of intensifying, like you said, super slow, controlled, and then holding it. At the very difficult portion of the lift, but also too being super explosive with it, which we don't recommend a lot. But in terms of body weight, it's a perfect situation to work on that.
If you have the control,
and you're an athlete, so the carryover to like that being
so you're still generating a ton of force.
Yes, if you have the control and if it's appropriate for you, a very fast, explosive body weight squat will activate as much or more fast twitch muscle fibers in a slow grinding heavy exercise.
Yeah.
Sprinting, for example, is a great lower body muscle builder. Short, hard sprints. The drawback is you have to have the prerequisites. You have to have the right stability and control, because if you can't do something perfectly safe slow, you definitely can't do it safe fast. That's the problem.
Our next caller is Austin from Florida.
Austin, what's happening, man? How can we help you?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good.
First, I just wanted to say thanks for having me on the show. I'm a fairly new listener, so I got some years of catching up to do, but everything that I've heard so far, I just love and continue to follow you guys. So to share a little bit of background, the start of the pandemic, really, I was 262 pounds. We have a 3-year-old, or we had a 9-month-old at the time, and I had no job, just kind of sitting around the house and like, what, I'm 9 months out from my 30th birthday and I want to go into my 30s, trying to be in the best shape of my life. So started tracking everything through Weight Watchers actually. And but started tracking everything, started running, and because cardio is just what burns all the fat, right? So that's my thought process, and ended up falling in love with running really, and trained for a half marathon, ran that one, wasn't really too pleased with the time, so went back at it 3 months later, dropped about 20 and 30 minutes off of that time. So just really loved running, but I also started to, as things kind of opened back up, I had a buddy who kind of pulled me along to the gym, and started working out, a couple times a week. And I lost about 50 pounds. I got down to like 212. And then holidays hit, and I just ate whatever I wanted and put on another, 8 to 10 pounds. And since the start of 2022, really, I've been trying everything that I could do to get that, to get back to where I was, or even try to get even more lean and whatnot. And so my question is, currently I run about 4 to 5 times a week for 45 minutes to an hour. And then I also go to the gym. I get about an hour session a day, 4 times a week. And so I know that building muscle can burn fat, and also know that endurance training can sometimes break down muscle. So am I running too much, or what is the balance there in terms of doing what I need to really meet a goal of burning some fat here?
Yeah. Austin, is your goal just to lose weight on the scale, or is your goal to be lean? So like muscle, which one is it?
Definitely to lean out. I'd like to, I'm at like 28% body fat. So I'd like to get down to like under the 20s. I'm not trying to compete in any competition or anything, or in the 10%, whatever, but 15 to 18% would be great, and just be more comfortable in my skin. So.
Okay. Are you going to do any more running competitions coming up? Is that even a thing, or right now is the goal just I want to get lean? Yeah.
So I did sign up for my first full marathon in February of 2023, and I expect that to be about a 16-week training cycle. So I have about 7 or 8 weeks until that starts.
Okay. So for just for body composition purposes, so to be lean, more muscle, you are running too much. So I would cut the running down. You're also lifting too much, doing an hour, 4 days a week, plus running 4 or 5 days a week. You should be lifting maybe 3 days a week, and you could keep running a couple days a week, maybe 2 days a week, and that would probably be more appropriate along with a good diet. Now, when you're training for a marathon, that's different. I wouldn't worry about body fat percentage. That's more about performance. But long distance running and training for endurance does have, it tends to get people to lose just overall body weight, including muscle. So you'll end up a smaller, kind of same body fat percentage version of yourself doing it that way. So I would do the strength training and make that the focus, 3 days a week, full body. If you don't have MAPS Anabolic, that'd be the program I put you on. And then running, you can do 1 or 2 days a week of running just to maintain your stamina and endurance, especially if you enjoy it. And then what you'll see is the scale probably won't move much, but you'll start to get stronger and notice changes in body composition. So your waist will get smaller. You'll see more definition. And I wouldn't even look at the scale, to be honest with you. I wouldn't even look at the scale. I would measure my waist circumference, or if you could do body fat percentage testing, that's how I would monitor the progress.
The good news is that you have a solid 7 weeks to kind of reverse diet. So I think that is, we may potentially want more time than that for the most ideal situation, but at least you're not like, this would be a really tough thing to help you with if you're calling us and you're like, and tomorrow I start my 16-week training for my marathon. It's like, well, fuck, not much we can do. You're going to, just get good at running. Right. So you at least have 7 weeks to take Sal's advice. I think that's the perfect advice. You don't have to cut the running out completely, because there are some benefits to you still maintaining some stamina, endurance. I think 2 times a week is plenty. I agree. A MAPS Anabolic type of routine, and you're focused on slowly increasing calories and getting strong in the gym. Let your circumference measurements, like he's saying, be kind of your guide, and the strength in the gym be your North Star. Like if I'm seeing my bench, my squat, my deadlift slowly go up, I'm probably getting stronger belly muscle, and my waist isn't getting exponentially bigger, and then my calories are getting higher. That would be the ultimate success in the next 7 weeks is, can I go from, did you tell me how many calories are you probably eating right now? Are you tracking it all?
Yeah, I started tracking about 6 weeks ago, switching from the easy of Weight Watchers to actually just calories. I do anywhere from 23 to 2,500.
Okay, yeah. See, in a guy your size, I would eventually, maybe not in these next 7 weeks, but eventually I'd want you north of 3,000, 3,500 calories, right? Because you're not a small guy, right? You're a big dude. So we would want to be up there. So the goal for now, for the next 7 weeks would be, can I get you closer to the 2,800 calorie mark and not putting on any body fat and stronger before we go into this 16-week training for a marathon. And I wouldn't mess with calories. If anything, I might go up in your calories when you start the marathon running. So you minimize how much muscle you actually potentially are going to reduce.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, that makes sense. So just to make sure I'm tracking completely, it would be to run maybe once or 2 times a week, and in the gym 3 or 4 days a week.
No, we're follow Maps Anabolic.
Yeah,
we'll send you the program.
Yeah, we'll send you the program. So follow Maps Anabolic to a T.
Yeah. So follow that. Run maybe once or twice, and you don't drop your calories. You can keep them the same, but then slowly try to raise them to feed the muscle and to feed your metabolism. You want to be in a position where your body's burning a lot of calories on its own. You don't want to be in the position where you have to burn the calories manually so often. I mean, running as much as you are, working out as much as you are, and being a big guy, only eating 2,000, 2,300 calories, and you want more, and you want to lose more body fat. I think it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that the end of that is unsustainable. What are you eating? 1,500 calories a day and working out, for hours and hours every single week doesn't make sense. So if you follow our advice, you're going to slowly be able to get your metabolism to boost, and you'll be able to eat more food, and it'll be much easier to maintain.
You're a perfect person to talk to about this too, because you have this great story that you just experienced, which is you lost a bunch of weight through running like this. Then you go into the holidays, you eat a little bit of whatever you want, and all of a sudden you pack on weight relatively quick. That wouldn't have happened, or it wouldn't have happened as bad had you been more muscle focused during that time and less cardio focused, because you actually would have had a faster metabolism. So you would have more metabolic flexibility or nutritional flexibility, the ability to eat a little bit outside of the diet and not let it feel like it packs all on you. But because you ran all that weight off of you, you inevitably slowed the metabolism down. And so, eating a few hundred or 1,000 extra calories every day, it ended up feeling like it stuck to you, which is probably what you felt.
Yeah, definitely been in a plateau, feels like all year. So
yeah.
Well, Austin, keep listening to the show, because this is actually a topic we touch on quite a bit. So we'll be able to help you out.
Was it your buddy that introduced you to the show, the one that introduced you to weightlifting, or how'd you find the show?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
good friend. Hang out with him more.
He knows what he's doing.
Thanks for calling in, Austin. We'll send you Maps Anabolic.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys. And one thing that I have learned throughout this, through listening to you guys, is there's a difference between fitness and health. And I really appreciate you guys focusing on the health aspect and not just the fitness, because there's a whole lot of unhealthy habits that can take place. And so I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
You got it, man.
Perfect. Thank you, Austin.
Thanks, brother.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, it's still a thing, This is what people do when they want to lose weight.
It's definitely still a thing,
It's
bro.
a big thing,
It's going to always be a thing, I think.
Cut your calories,
talking about it.
Run it off. I mean, what a great example. I mean, the guy, he's a big dude.
He's a perfect example.
He's 200 and what was he now? What did it say here?
He was 260. He lost 50 pounds. So he's like low 200.
So he's a big dude.
Yeah.
He's a big dude. He's working out like how many hours? Like 10 hours a week, because he's running plus lifting.
Yeah. He should be eating north of 3,500 calories.
I mean, I don't work out half as much as he does, and that's how much I eat, right?
Yeah,
You want to get to that point. Otherwise, it's just unsustainable. Unless you plan on eating 1,500 calories and just doing tons of exercise all the time, which you could do. And if it's okay, it could be healthy too.
Yeah.
It's just hard to maintain.
When you're talking about like 2,400 or wherever he's at right now, and then all this body fat he wants to lose, and getting to that point, like to to really visualize that. And like, if I was to like have a client right now, and like, this is the first conversation we're having, and to be able to draw that and be like, okay, so let's just say we keep doing this as a math problem, and I'm taking you all the way down, shaving, is 1,100 or, 1,200 calories. Does that sound like something that you can do?
Yeah. Paired with 7 days of running, right?
Yeah.
Because
exactly. Because you have to match that with your intensity.
And then what you can't
movement.
account for on that math problem is how the body's metabolism adapts.
Right.
Because people will do the math and they'll assume I'll be burning the same amount of calories the whole time. No, your body adapts. You lose muscle, your metabolism burns less calories.
No, which is why I brought up the 7 day. Like, eventually, you have to increase. the activity.
Everything gets worse.
Yeah, and the next thing you know, you're 7 days a week of high intensity activity and 1,100 calories, and you're like, I'd rather be fat.
No,
it was way more enjoyable.
Totally.
Our next caller is Jared from Idaho.
Jared, what's happening, man? How can we help you?
Not a lot. I'm excited to be here. I want to thank you guys for the work that you do and for the truth in fitness, which is something appreciated.
Good deal.
Right.
I will, my wife says I get long-winded, so I will just read my email straight away, and then
You tell great
I'll answer
stories. That's what that means. Yeah.
yeah. You guys ask follow-up questions and or look for your feedback after that. Okay, so my personal background, 45 years old, about 5'10", 195 pounds. I'd say give or take about 25% body fat. High school, small college level athlete. Been previously certified as a personal trainer with ACE, certified strength and conditioning specialist with NSCA, practicing physical therapist for the past 10 years, working out about 5 to 7 days for most of my life, and researched and designed my own programming for the last 15 years or so. Questions. I had 2 questions. My wife introduced me to Mind Pump about 3 to 5 months ago, so I'm fairly new. But from what I've heard, I like the background and philosophy behind the MAPS programs. I'm getting ready to try someone else's programming for the first time in a really long time. I'm going to get ready to start MAPS Anabolic because we got the RGB bundle. One of the things I'm most interested in monitoring and tracking is my physique, hoping to lower my body fat percentage. So the first question is, what would be the best / most accurate way to track body fat percentage, ideally at home, but simple and easy methods? And then my second question is, I'd planned on starting anabolic just because it seems like what I would like the most, just given my background. But from what I've heard from previous podcasts, you guys often recommend the most beneficial program would be the one that's least like what I've been doing for a long time. And so from what I gather, that would be something like MAPS Symmetry for me. So I was wondering if I'd be better off still starting with anabolic or getting and kind of starting Symmetry instead.
Yeah. Are you before? Do you have any aches or pains or any chronic type injuries right now?
I ache because my daughter's turning 18, but other than that, I'm good.
Holy shit!
I can't solve that, dude. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry. No math program will help you with that, except getting bigger to scare the boys away.
I mean, he's a DPT, so hopefully he's addressing most of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you have. I mean, your background in correctional exercises, I mean, it exceeds ours, so you kind of know how to handle that. I think you'd be fine starting a MAPS Anabolic. MAPS Symmetry would be a great place to start, also, but you could also follow it after MAPS Anabolic. And then, with your background and experience, you could also, of course, modify the program as you see fit if something doesn't feel right. But yeah, I think you get great results trying MAPS Anabolic, especially if you haven't done a kind of full body based workout before. If it was bodybuilding style, you probably did more of a split type routine, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah. I mean, not even just upper body, lower. It's, chest and tricep back.
Oh, you're going to love
and
anabolic.
Legs.
Anabolic's going to blow your mind.
Yeah, anabolic, you're going to respond great to that.
Yeah, it's going to blow your mind. The muscle and strength gains in that are going to blow your mind. It's just the superior way to train for most people. So give it a shot. I'd go through MAPS Anabolic, and then after that, MAPS Symmetry would be a phenomenal follow-up.
As far as body fat percentage, I mean, that's really going to come down to diet, right? I mean, you even with a crappy program, you can get pretty shredded if you're dialed nutritionally. So, I mean, that's going to be how diligent you are with your tracking. As far as a tool that you can do at home, to be honest, I've even used the shitty scales that are terrible.
Electronic impedance.
They're terrible. They're inaccurate. But you know what? As long as they are consistent and you're consistent with when when you use it. I don't get hung up on when I get on the scale, it says that I'm, 27%, and I know that I hydrostatic weighed, a month ago and I was at like 8%. To me, although that would never happen, that much discrepancy, but you get the point that it doesn't matter to me that they're way off. What I care about is the one at home, what it starts out, and then as I'm manipulating my nutrition, where is it moving? And I'm really watching the big swings, because typically when you go into a cut or a diet like that, the most common thing, even professionals like ourselves that have certifications and knowledge and experience, is too much, too fast, right? So I tend to go into cut and you want to kind of do everything at once, or you cut really extreme, and then I see weight kind of come off too fast, and I'm like, I don't need to do that. I want a slow, gradual process. And so I would use any of those. Just be very consistent about the time that you do it, and most ideally that's morning, no food, no water, no nothing in your system, first thing, naked type of deal, and the same day of the week consistently.
Yeah, that in conjunction just with your basic circumference measurements. In terms of like seeing growth where you want to see growth, and then seeing, like, let's say it's your waist that you want to see like the most difference in terms of like a decrease in size. So that's something you can consistently kind of revisit, weekly or so, just to give you an idea of where the trends are going.
So remember, to go back with what Adam said, to really, really hammer that home, the consistency with electronic impedance body fat testing is going to be in the time of day, the amount of water and food you've had in your belly, that you test this. So in other words, if you test it first thing in the morning, on Monday morning, then that's what you always do. That way you're controlling all the controllables.
Right.
And that way that the scale, because the scale is going to fluctuate depending on your water and your body and food and that kind of stuff. That's what makes them inaccurate. And then just watch the trends. Don't get hung up on a 1 or 2% swing. Just look over the course of weeks. But I'll be honest with you, I like circumference. I really do. I like circumference better. If you store body fat like the typical male, which is mostly around the waist, you can honestly do two things. My strength, is it going up in the gym? And then is my circumference around my waist going down? If both of those are happening, then you're probably building muscle and getting leaner. Yeah. That's the easiest, that's the most simple, easy way to do to test yourself. And you could do circumference measurements, I don't know, twice a week, just to see where that looks. And do the same thing, do it at the same time every day. I think first thing in the morning is best, because what you eat can affect like gut bloat and stuff like that. So I would go first thing in the morning, right, above the navel or right at the navel, and that's it. That and my strength. Am I getting stronger? Is my waist going down? Then I'm going in the right direction.
Yeah, a waist measurement paired with some photos I love. I mean, when I was coaching online with clients, that was the check-in, right? Every Friday, first thing in the morning before they ate, they would send me over their circumference measurements with photos of front, side, and back. Yeah. And that and really I'm looking at like 2 weeks. Because in a week, you could easily see a positive or negative swing that could throw you off, that makes you trying to adjust the program when you maybe don't, just you're holding a little extra water or something. Maybe you had a little more sodium the day before or something, or a couple more carbs. Like those things could easily go off like that. So I'm looking at like 2 week snapshots. Like if I'm looking at your photos from 2 weeks ago compared to where it is today, and you objectively look better, and your waist is either staying the same or even potentially getting lower, like we're on the right track.
Totally.
Just had to make sure to wear nipple pasties when I sent them to you.
Yes, I appreciate that.
Be classy about it.
So Jared, I'm going to send you Map Symmetry, so you have that option.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so you could start with it if you want. I think you'll like Maps. I think start with Maps Anabolic. After Anabolic, you could go into Symmetry, then go into Performance. You have all those other programs in there, and then have some fun with it. I think with your background and your experience, once you go through our programming, I think you'll be able to modify it and start to figure out kind of what's going to work best for your body. And that's what we recommend anyway, is that when people follow our programs, that they start to individualize them.
I've got to commit to following it to a T first, because it's been a long time. So it'll be hard for me to give up that control, but I've committed myself to giving it for the first time through, doing it to a T.
Yeah,
so
I'm so glad you said that, and you have that attitude, because I agree with it. Because someone with your knowledge and experience,
you're gonna want to tweak it.
It'll be very tempting to want to tweak. And even someone like at your level, I would say just please trust the process all the way through, and then go back and
I think phase 1 of Maps Anabolic is going to convince you. I think after the second week, when you start to see the strength gains go up, you're going to be like, okay, I'm going to stick with this and see what happens. That's my personal opinion.
Nice.
All right, man.
And then with the impedance scales for at home, as long as I use the same one, do they stay relatively consistent?
Yeah.
As long as it's like I said, first thing in the morning, same food, same water,
same time. What Sal is saying is the thing that will throw. I can take one of those things and manipulate it by 4 or 5% within 5 minutes just by pounding some water, have some sodium,
carbs.
have some carbs, and it that's what really throws those things off. So if you're really consistent at every Friday at 7 a.m. when you wake up before you get in the shower or something, you check it. It'll be pretty consistent for you. Consistent enough with a guy with your experience and knowledge, consistent enough to give you an idea. Am I heading in the right direction or the wrong direction? And do I need to correct nutritionally?
Nice.
Yep.
All right, Jared. Thanks for calling in, man.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for all you do.
Yeah.
Good luck,
Keep us posted, man. I'd really like to hear your experience as you go through it.
For sure.
All right, Jared.
He's gonna love. If you've been training that long with a body part split, that switch he's gonna blow up. He's gonna build
People
muscle.
see substantial change.
Massive.
when they switch over like that. For sure.
And the reason I put phase 1 where it is because I know that convinces people to continue on.
I love that too, that he said that he is, for him to say it, not us have to tell him, he's committing to, I'm going to follow to a T, because that's the most tempting. When you have that much education, that's the hardest thing, is to take your ego out of it and be like,
well, he's a physical therapist, so I'm sure he has patients who do the same thing. So he's like, all right, I got to be the patient.
I mean, let's be honest. Anybody sends us a program, like we'd go through that same process of like, I don't know. Like, I know my body.
Yeah. No. So I hope he does. And I think that he's going to see incredible results. So I'm excited.
Look, if you like Mind Pump, head over to mindpumpfree.com and check out some of our guides. We have guides that can help you with almost any health or fitness goal, and they're all free. You can also find all of us on social media. So Justin is on Instagram at mindpumpjustin. Adam is on Instagram at mindpumpaddam, and you can find me on Twitter at mindpumpsal. This one's really important, and that is to phase your training. If somebody trains for a full year doing a bench press, and they're always aiming for 5 reps, if you compared that person to a person who did bench press where they did 3 or 4 weeks of 5 reps, but then they did 3 or 4 weeks of 12 reps, and then 3 or 4 weeks of, let's say, 15 to 20 reps, and then they'll throw in some supersets. At the end of that year, you're going to see more consistent progress from the person who's moving in and out, and less injury.